All right, hello everyone. I'm gonna do a reading of Second Esdras, chapter 13, and I'm gonna read it and add some commentary and do some cross references on other verses in the Bible that are related to this. And for those listening that aren't looking at the extra books, listen. It's start with the main books in the Bible first, obviously, but a lot of these other books are relevant, and I believe are legit. Second Esdras definitely being one of them. So I'm going to read it, and we'll go from there. And what we're going to see actually right here, though, is there's going to be references to, I think the 144,000, the second coming of Yeshua. We're going to see that right away. And this is a vision that Ezra had, and God actually gives the interpretation of some of the stuff as well. So it's very relevant to end times, and I think very important. And I will say this too. Some of the stuff I might throw out there, I'm sure I don't have exactly right. So if you see something, please comment or show me. I'm always willing to listen. I'm just giving you what I've seen from reading it. I'm not perfect on this, but let's go. And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. Now we're going to see later on, as we keep reading, that this man is Yeshua. This is the second coming, which it's pretty clear, I think, actually just reading it without even the interpretation given, but it'll tell us that directly later. Now, the man's waxed strong with thousands of the heaven. So my question is that he's coming with his 144,000. So how many thousands? 144 is what I would say. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. Now that great mountain, I would say, is Mount Zion. Maybe not the physical Mount Zion that is named in the Israel area, but because he had graved himself a great mountain. So this is going to be from reading this, a new creation, Mount Zion, though. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. So these, these that are afraid here are, I'm gonna go into Revelation 19, and we're gonna see more about that. But it's gonna be people they're gonna fight. They're afraid and they're gonna fight. But I think that they're not actually redeemable at this point. They're probably those that have taken the mark of the beast. So that's why they're really backed into corner here. So, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out his. So this is interesting. 10 and 11 here. We're going to tie this right into Revelation 19. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude that was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So let's go in, and I'm going to read a section in Revelation 19. This is directly talking about, where do I have it? All right, so let's go from 15. So from his mouth comes a sharp sword. So there wasn't a physical sword. This was coming from the mouth, as we see from in Ezra's talk about that, with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and his thigh he has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun with a loud voice. He called to all the birds that flew directly overhead, come gather for the great supper of God, to eat the flesh of kings, captains, mighty men, horses, the riders, all men, free and slaves, small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against who was sitting on the horse again against his army. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who in his presence had done the signs by which he deceived those. So there you go, those who had received the mark of the beast. So this is who are going to come against Yeshua, and when he comes back, and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive in the lake of fire. that burns with sulfur. Okay, and the rest were slain by the sword that came from the mouth of him who was sitting on the horse, and all the birds were gorged with their flesh. So that's talking about here in, reread 10 and 11. That's a very direct comparison. So let's keep going. Okay, so this will be interesting too. Afterward saw I the same man come down from the mountain and call unto him another peaceable multitude. We're going to see later on as we read, but this peaceable multitude is the 10 tribes. This is Ephraim right here, and it's going to tell us. And there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, and some of them were bound, and others some brought of them that were offered. Then I was sick through great fear, and I awakened and said, Thou hast shown thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast counted me worthy that thou shalt receive my prayer. Show me now yet the interpretation of the dream. I'll stop at 14. If you read 2nd Esdras, Ezra has shown a lot. Now not only he's shown this the second coming, he has shown the birth when Yeshua is to come. He has shown that when he is ascended, and he's showing him when he's returned. If you can read this, he's given all this. So he's showing these wonders from the beginning. For as 16, for as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. For they that were not left were in heaviness. Now understand I that the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them and to those that are left behind. Therefore are they come in great perils and many necessities, like as the dreams declare. So, this chapter alone is going to do a lot to shoot down the pre-trib rapture stuff. I mean, there's people that are going to be following God's ways that are going to have to go through some peril, some troubling times. Yet is it easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world, and not to see the things that happen in the last days? And he answered to me and said, The interpretation of the vision shall I show thee, and I will open unto thee the things as thou hast required. Whereas thou hast spoken of them that are left behind, this is the interpretation. He that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith towards the Almighty. So I'll stop here, because there's going to be people that are going to be in perilous times, but they're going to fall in danger, but they're going to have works and they're going to have faith towards them. They're going to have works. Let's look at that. Let's go to Ephesians 2:10 through 12, because we were created for works. So we're his workmanship, created in Yeshua for what? For good works. What else could the good works be but the obedience to the commandments? Right? What else could they be? What other are we going to have, like man-made good works where it's just we think this thing is good, you do this? No, the good works that we're created for, we're created to walk in his ways, to follow the covenants of promise. This is what it is. He prepared it beforehand that we should walk in them. Do you believe what you're reading? James 2. Everyone's familiar with this section. I won't read it all, but it's faith without works. What is the point? Now, this isn't legalism. This is the works. When you're walking in covenant, you're obeying God's ways. Those are the works. They're not our righteousness. Our righteousness is worth. His righteousness is perfect. Psalm 119, 142. Go read that. His righteousness is everlasting righteousness, and his Torah, his law, is the truth. So, you want to walk in the truth? It's really simple, church. It's really simple too. This stuff is not hard. It's not a burden. It's not a yoke. It's really easy. You circumcise your heart, and you will do it. I promise you that, because you would be like, God, show me the truth, and He's going to answer that. Okay, so. But yeah, so James starts talking about Abraham. I mean, and you can actually go into, if you want to see a list of work, read Hebrews 11, and you'll see this whole list from like the beginning to end, even to get to Rahab the prostitute, that they had faith and they believed, but there's actually things they did, even walking around Jericho 7 times. No, they believed that Jericho was going to deliver in their hands, but they had to go out there, and they moved their feet, So in 2 Peter 1:5 through 9, for this reason make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge. We're called to search out knowledge, right? We're called to be kings, read His Word. How do we know that we know God? And we keep His commandments. And knowledge is self-control, steadfastness, godliness. Be holy as I am holy. So the things that God set apart, like that you want to be godly, follow things that God set apart as separate from the world, right? I mean, you got to get rid of the Christmas tree. You got to get rid of the idolatry. You got to get rid of the covetous, the pride. Like, you got to be holy, right? And it's not, again, it's not hard. The Holy Spirit will lead you into this. I promise you that. That's what the Holy Spirit of grace will do. It'll give you that strength to do this. Brotherly love. It mentions brotherly love. How do we know we love our brothers and our sisters? We rebuke sin upon them so they don't fall. We don't want them to fall. We want them to run the race. We're to strengthen them, to lift them up. That's what the Bible defines as love. Don't take it out on me. For whoever lacks these qualities is so nearsighted that he is blind, having forgotten that he was cleansed from his former sins. Oh, Peter, you big meanie. We'll get to that one. All right, I forgot where I was here. All right. All right. All right. So I'm not sure where I was. Let's go to 24, I guess. Now know this, therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. This is the meaning of the vision, where you saw the man coming up in the midst of the sea. The same is he whom God the highest has kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. And whereas you saw out of the mouth came wind, fire, and storm, that he held neither sword nor instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came out to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. Now, he's going to deliver them in certain ways. Certainly, we see, read the next couple of verses. It's going to talk about wars and people going against people, opposing each other, sowing discord. This is, we're going to go to 2 Thessalonians 7:12 here, because this Bible is written to the church, right? It's a people it's not written to atheists, really. I mean, so these warnings in here, you got to take serious. So for the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains it will do so until he is out of the way, and then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Yeshua will kill with the breath of his mouth and bring to nothing by the appearance of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Church, you are refusing to love the truth. The pastors aren't telling you the truth. You're regurgitating lies, and it's not your fault. It's only your fault if you refuse to listen. When you hear the truth, you got to open your ears. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion, so that they may believe what is false, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. We already covered Psalm 119, 142, what righteousness is. God's righteousness. It's his ways. The opposite of that is going to be unrighteousness. It's simple. All right. Okay, I'm going to go to 32. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the sign shall happen, which I showed thee before, and then shall my son be declared. So this obviously we already know it's Yeshua come down, but it's telling us very clearly, in case there's any confusion, who thou saw as a man ascending. So we saw him as a man ascending at one point. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle to have one against another, and a innumerable multitude shall gather together as thou saw, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. They're going to try to fight against Yeshua. I know everyone's like, that sounds dumb, but the church, you're fighting against the words that Yeshua taught. I mean, Matthew 5:17 through 19 alone should be enough, but it's not. So you think they're stupid. But he shall stand upon the top of Mount Zion. So there you go. That's the mountain that I mentioned earlier. And Zion shall come and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and built, like as thou saw the hill graven without hands. And this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into tempest. That inventions word is actually, we see it translated as deeds most of the time. I believe it's this Strong's H4611. Most of the time it's doings. And so there's a whole bunch you can look at about the doings and the warnings of what people are doing, the man-made righteousness ways they're following in end times. I just picked one. This Psalm 106. I'll just start here. At 34, they did not destroy the peoples as the Lord commanded them, but they mixed with the nations and learned to do as they did. They served their idols, which became a snare to them. This is what's happening. This is Christmas and Easter. They sacrificed their sons and daughters to demons. Why do you think that Christmas and Easter are so oriented around children? You are sacrificing your children to these gods. They are going to grow up and teach their children. It's a vicious cycle. They poured out innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood. Thus they became unclean by their acts and played the whore in their deeds, in their own inventions. They're playing the whore. Church, you got to wake up. All right. 38, and they shall lay before them their evil thoughts and the torments wherein they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and ye shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto me. What? So the church will say the law is done away with, but they know that there's going to be a judgment coming. Well, what do you think are going to be, what's going to be used in the judgment? There's got to be a law to judge against, right? There's got to be commandments and things that were set forth from old, and you're saying it's done away with, and they're going to be destroyed by that, by the law. And you're doing it to yourself. You really are. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude. Here we go. The peaceable multitude. These are verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes, which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the times of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go into a further country where never mankind dwelt. If mankind, at this point, where are the places that mankind has never dwelt? Think about that. That they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So they learned, they got kicked out. They were rebuked, and they turned, they repented, and they want to go, okay, well, let's keep the statutes. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow place of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. And this may happen again. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. I've been studying that. There's a lot of different conclusions that people have come to that. I don't have an answer on what Arsareth. It's, a lot of people will say it's the Americas, maybe North and even South America. I don't know, but it's a year and a half to get in a place that no one had been to. There's not a lot of options actually on the earth where that region could have been. But I'm not going to say that's what it is. I don't know. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders. Now when he destroys the multitude of nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. And then shall he show them great wonders. Then said I, O Lord that bearest rule, show me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea? And he said to me, like as thou canst neither seek out nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon the earth see my son or those that be with him, but in the daytime. This is the interpretation of the dream. So he goes on. I'll just point out. Okay, so Ezra is getting this, and why is Ezra getting so much? He's giving a revelation. He's giving him knowledge. Why is he doing that? Is he just, But he's going to tell why, and this is going to apply to us. 54. For thou hast forsaken thine own way, and applied thy diligence unto my law, and sought it. So it's circumcised heart. It says, I'm done with the things of the world. It's crossing over. He were crossing over, getting out of, come out of her, my people. This is which he has done clearly. Thy life hast thou ordered in wisdom, and has called understanding thy mother. Wisdom is his ways, is his instructions. And therefore so because you've done this, I've showed you the treasures of the highest. And he's going to show. He goes on. And he's going to show more. But because he's done this, so do you think that the servants in these times right now that are going and working and rebuking and loving and encouraging and repenting, do you not think that God's going to continue to show them something? Do you think His word is going to return void to Him? His word has gone out, and the pastors aren't teaching it. The churches aren't teaching it. Do you think that it's going to go back to God and it's going to say, well, no, this didn't work with anybody. It didn't resonate. No. The Bible says it's not going to return void. There's going to be people out there, and there's a ton waking up in these times right now. So if you're watching this and you're on the fence on this, you can't stay on the fence. You're going to have to pick, actually, and I hope you pick the right way. Don't listen to lies. Listen to the truth.